and Lightning going down to the final seconds, and Nikita Kucherov, with less than 8 seconds on the clock, is able to net the game winner. John Cooper and company going nuts. Islanders and their fans disappointed here in Game 2 as they drop this one. Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon Hogan alongside Butch Goring. We're inside our MSG Network studios, and this is the Mercedes-Benz post-game show. Butchie, I really thought this game was going to overtime. I think the Islanders came out much stronger than we saw in Game 1. It was an entertaining and close game, hard fought.
It really was, and it was Islander hockey. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, you can't fault the Islanders in any way, shape, or form. They were outstanding. They outshot the Tampa team. They had outchanced them. They had plenty of opportunities to win this game. And, yeah, they made a mistake late in the game. There's no doubt about it. They got outnumbered down low. But I just look at the power play for the Islanders, who had plenty of opportunities. A 5-man power play early on, a 5-on-3 power play. I think they went 0 for 5 or 0 for 6, whatever the case may be. So game should have never come down to the last minute of play. Should have been all over but the shouting. So Islanders, a tremendous effort. And you talk about the loss in the first game. That was not discouraging. This loss tonight is really tough, and it'll be interesting to see how the Islanders respond. But this was an incredibly difficult game to let get away.
Yeah, Islanders from the get-go in this game, Butch, coming out strong. They had a lot of momentum early on, and they were looking to kind of just carry that through. But unfortunately, the score doesn't indicate what they were able to do early on. And getting some scoring and getting some offense from unlikely lines.
They played a terrific first period. I mean, it was a complete turnaround, and I expected it to be a much better game for the Islanders. I didn't think they would dominate them in the first period like they did, but the Cizikas line, and Matt Martin's having himself a heck of a playoff series. I mean, he has just been doing everything, fighting, goals, and physical play, and they just get it in deep. Talked about the chip and chase, and it's a little bit lucky, but you know what? You earn your luck, and you can just see that Clutterbuck's in there, Cizikas is in there, Letty gets it out in front, and Matty Martin's putting himself in position to score goals. That's the big difference for him. I think during the regular season, he's just not getting himself in as good a spot, but this time of the year, he's eager to score goals, and he's playing a heck of a hockey game, and he's played a heck of a series, and that whole line has been great. But you know, the whole team was really great tonight. But they got the lead. That's what they wanted. They deserved to have the lead, and they let it slip away.
A lot of momentum happens in games, as you know, as a former player, at the start of the period and then winding down in a period. And one theme that we had in the Flyers series was you were looking for the Islanders to make sure not to ice the puck at untimely times, as we will say, and this was a case that led to that Victor Hedman goal.
Well, it was an icing that wasn't necessary. I mean, Taves had the puck as he came off the ice, and it was only around a minute to go. And I mean, he's got plenty of room. He could have just shuffled it off the boards, off his backhand, and he ices the puck. And we talked about this in the Philadelphia game, and sure enough, they win a face-off, and Bailey's not able to get in front of it. Varlamov is screened on the play. Maybe he could have been a little more aggressive and got out a little further, as you can see. But he's at the top of the crease, and it's tough to fault anybody when they can't see it. But that icing was just not necessary. And it just seems right now for the Islanders, whenever they make a mistake, it ends up in their net.
Yeah, leading it off, here's the first period goal scored. You see Matt Martin, a goal and 7 hits tonight, 5 goals in 18 playoff games. He had just 5 goals in the 55 regular season games this season. So Matt Martin on quite a stretch here in the postseason. And Victor Hedman, you know how dangerous he can be with the puck on his stick. A 4-game goal scoring streak. 7 goals in the playoffs. That leads NHL defensemen. So you want to keep it away from Victor Hedman. And moving forward in this game, Butch, back and forth, a lot going on in the second period. You get to the third period, and you're kind of there hoping that the Islanders are going to make a little push.
Well, yeah, you really are. I mean, they're playing the type of game that they wanted to play, and if you look at the playoffs, the third period has been really good for the Islanders. I think they were a +13, and they outscored the opposition, outplayed the opposition. So you figure they got Tampa exactly where they want.
You touched on it a little bit at the top of the show. When you have a 5-on-3 opportunity with the power play, when you have so much power play time, you have to at least get one in a game like this against Tampa Bay. They weren't able to do that in the third period. No,
and so often you say if you don't score in the 5-on-3, more often than not you'll lose the game, especially if it's a close one. And they really didn't get a whole lot done on the 5-on-3. I mean, a couple of errant passes, but there's not a good pass. His Hedman is a very aggressive type defenseman, and there's another check there, a good sweeping check by. So that's desperation, and they do get it going to the net a little bit, but nothing really overly dangerous. So, I mean, it's a shame that the power play has been such a weak factor. But this is the as they continue right on, and with Kucherov ended up scoring this goal. But here's the play: is the Islanders have people back, but nobody's in position. So the only time probably all game is that they didn't have a man, and I'm not sure if that was Ryan Pollock's man or not. But Kucherov, the most valuable player last year, a very dangerous individual, and you've got to mark your men. And the Islanders, as I said, they played almost a perfect game. They did everything they were supposed to do, except for win a hockey game.
Yeah, 6 points already this series. It's only been 2 games in 15 games in the postseason, 6 goals, 17 assists for Nikita Kucherov. Another interesting note about this game, Butchie, was that there were several players that were pretty banged up by the end of it. And Brock Nelson had quite a night, but Alex Killorn eventually had to leave the game. And Braden Point, who was a huge factor in Game 1 with a 5-point night, he also was not there in the third period.
Yeah, well, it was a physical series, and one of my keys, was to lay the lumber or lay the body on Braden Point and Kucherov every opportunity. And it was a physical game. Everybody was hitting everybody, and certainly when they had the chance, they did what they needed to do. You knew they were going to be a lot more involved in it, and obviously if you're skating, you have a chance to catch people. So it was that type of game. But Brock Nelson with a very cheap shot by Killorn, he gets the 5-minute major. But, that's where you need to make the opposition pay for that kind of a penalty, and the Islanders get 0 done. And then we saw a little cheap hit on Brock Nelson, I believe by Gaudreau later on, and the referees missed that one. But there's no question that they're targeting Nelson, they're targeting Barzal, and for good reason. They're the important players, and there's the 5-minute major penalty, and Nelson's not even watching. He's released the penalty, and the referees make the right call. And Killorn's done, and Brock Nelson. But watch this check later on. Another high shot to the head, and the referees don't see this. There's Gaudreau, and that's right up on the neck, and so that could be a suspension for him. And that's just not necessary. But clearly they're targeting certain players, and Barzal's is a tough little guy, and he's been able to withstand some of the barrage of stuff. But you got to do the same thing to them. You got to go after their star players too. You want to play that game? Well, okay, 2 can play that game, but I can't emphasize enough. I mean, it was a tremendous bounce-back game for the Islanders. They were a more rested hockey team, and they played a really good hockey game. It's just a real tough loss for them.
Yeah, I just have to say, going back to watching those replays of Brock Nelson, and even in slow-mo, I'm sure everybody at home, whenever you see them, you kind of just cringe because you know that he really didn't have a chance to protect himself there. So we wish Brock well, and hopefully that hopefully he is continues to be a factor for this Islanders in this series. But as you mentioned, a great bounce-back game for this team. What does it do for the psyche as a former player now looking at Game 3? You're down 2 games in this series, knowing that you really did play a fairly solid Game 2.
Well, this one will hurt for a while. We listened to Matt Barzal the other night when they got shellacked 8-3, and he said, we forgot it 10 seconds later. And that makes sense. But this one here, you can't just put under the bed as quickly as you like to, because you played well. You deserve to win the hockey game, and they were in my mind were the better team tonight. They played their game, and they just made so few mistakes, and they'll lament a little bit about the power play. There's no doubt about it. Guys on the power play they know they have to be better. There's no question about that. But this one will sting for a while, but tomorrow will ease the pain a little bit, and then they'll get themselves ready. I mean, these guys are hockey players, and hockey players have short memories, and they know the series isn't over. But the one thing they do know, they can play against the Tampa team.